Hello, good afternoon. Good evening.
Good evening, Venerable Calden.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello, Nana. Is that you, Nana?
No, my Rachel.
Oh, Rachel, how are you?
Hi, thank you.
Good to see all of you. Very nice, very nice. Okay, so today we are doing here from home, all of us from home, or wherever we are. Apparently the center didn't have electricity, but then I think at the end of the day they got electricity back. But we already said it was going to be online, so we're going to be doing online today. So then we'll see how it goes. But I think it's going to be fine. I think it's going to be okay. So very nice that we are here together. And as we all know, if we are here to talk or to listen, to hear, to contemplate, to meditate, it's important that we do that with a correct motivation. Today we're going to talk about motivation quite a lot because, we are basing these teachings on the book on how to practice Dharma, a book from Rinpoche. And there's only actually, with this class of today, there's only 3 more classes. So it's perfect because we're going to finish the 3 last chapters. And it is really about distinguishing what is holy Dharma and what is worldly Dharma. What is the difference? And motivation is really the biggest difference. So that's why it's so important that whatever we do, whatever we start, whatever we whatever we kind of like are aware that we are doing something. So it's very good that we try to create that mindset to first check our motivation. We can even stop what we are doing. In some places, people, even before meetings or before they're going to do something else, they kind of like just pause and they do a little bit of a contemplation, a bit of investigation of their mind. And that is very special. That is very, very special if we can do that. We can actually check our motivation all the time because it is an inner thing, motivation. So anything that we do that we can stop, that makes us stop whatever we are doing with the automatic, the autopilot, the one that we are just sliding into our habits, whatever the habit it might be, but just to give it a stop and say, is that the way I want to do it? Is that the way that I want to, continue doing things? There's a joke. I don't know if there's this, I think it was in Brazil we used to say this joke that there's this guy walking on the street and then he sees a banana, like a banana skin, and then he goes and he kind of like sleeps, like he sleeps on the banana skin and then falls down, and then the next day he goes and then he's walking and he steps again into another banana skin and then he slips and falls down. And then he's walking on the 3rd day and he sees another banana skin. He says, oh, here I go, sleep again. As if he's having no choice to not sleep, to not kind of like fall. So this is exactly what we can create, what we can do with our motivation. Our motivation really brings us the possibility of stopping something and to give a different direction. So that's what we need to do. And that's why before we start, especially something that could become holy Dharma, like a talk, even though my blah, blah, blah is not Dharma or is not Dharma, it depends on the intention. It depends on my intention. So it will become holy Dharma for me, and it becomes holy Dharma for you if depending on your intention, right? But not only this, but it will also depend on what I'm gonna present. So it's very important that we do that, that we can really be aware that things are co-created or things are created by our own intention, but also there has to be a valid basis there. It needs to have something that we can call holy Dharma. So that is very important. That is where we're going to talk about this today, about thinking that, there's a beautiful story I'm going to tell you. And that's what we need. We need to first check, our intention. And then we can check the activity and say, this is Dharma because this brings this. Oh, this is no Dharma because of this brings that. Okay? So let's take for a moment just to check our motivation, just to create a positive intention for using our time here, our body, our speech, our mind. If we think about it, we could be anywhere doing anything differently than just being here. But we decided to be here, sitting, listening, talking. And why is that? What is the intention behind? What is the motivation behind? What does a Dharma talk like this one brings to you? Try to check what is that you gain, what you get from listening to a Dharma talk. What changes in your life, in your mind? And if you think about it, whatever it is, the change that you see, does it bring what type of happiness? Because in a way or another, that's what we are looking for. We are looking for things that brings us happiness and makes our suffering, our pain, our confusion to decrease. So it is doing that, listening to this talk. And then we can think what type of happiness it brings, because it can just bring maybe a feeling of being more relaxed, more calm, so we can continue doing whatever we're doing in our lives. That's fair, that's good enough. But if we look at our potential as a human being, maybe we can do something more than that. We can transform our minds into not only having happiness in this life, but maybe finding happiness in future lives as well. Not only happiness in future lives, but we maybe can be completely free from our negative tendencies, our suffering. That would be nice. That's another motivation that we can create. But is that enough, or that is only what we can do? Well, we are here in a Mahayana Buddhist center, which means we can go even further and we can develop the greater vehicle, the greater motivation. which is to wanting to develop all the good qualities, especially omniscience and power, and be completely free from our sufferings and the causes of our suffering. So we achieve this state of enlightenment, of Buddhahood. And from this state, we are able to help others to also find the same. So the way we can help others is not only giving food, shelter, a word of kindness, of compassion, but we can help them to eliminate completely their suffering and the causes of their suffering. Can you imagine that? Helping everybody that we know that are suffering right now in so many different ways to be free from their suffering, whatever it is, physical, mental, emotional, financial, sickness, whatever. That would be nice. So we can create this strong bodhicitta motivation, as we call it, open our hearts towards others with this intention to achieve this enlightened state, to help them do the same. So we need to create the necessary causes and conditions to achieve that. So that's why we are here. We can choose to make this talk help us to achieve this by bringing awareness, by bringing wisdom to our lives. And in order to help us, we gotta do some motivational, aspirational prayers, as we say, and they will help us. They will help us to develop these mindsets more and more. So we're gonna do what we call the 4 opening powers. Nana is already sharing with us on the screen for those that would like to do it. And these are prayers that help us open our hearts, thinking about all sentient beings as being equal, all sentient beings wanting to be happy, and us wanting to help them being happy. All sentient beings wanting to not suffer, and we wanting to help them to not suffer. And wanting sentient beings to have conditions that are joyful and conducive to achieve happiness and freedoms from suffering. So you can start on page 35, the top of the page 35. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. Now we go up. And we can say, may all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. So we can visualize, I forgot to do the visualization before that prayer, but now for refuge and bodhicitta, we can do the visualization if we want. So we can visualize in front of us all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, all our teachers, as an inspiration, because they walk this path of finding happiness for themselves, not only in this life, not only in future lives, not only be free from their sufferings, but especially by completing the path and achieving enlightenment. So they can guide us, they can help us, but they cannot just come and take away our problems and fix our minds. Not like this. We need to create the necessary conditions. So one of them is to make requests. It helps us to fight our selfish attitude, our proud attitude, our independent attitude. I can do by myself and I know best. You know that type of attitude? I don't know, maybe you don't have it. I have a lot. So very important to do this. And then we can see surrounding us all sentient beings. Now that we did this for immeasurables, we can feel them and wanting to really help them. So when we go for refuge, we are choosing. It's a conscious decision to ask help and ask inspiration for the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha as a way for us to achieve this state of enlightenment. So we say with the bodhicitta attitude, we can help others to do the same. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye chodan soki chonam la janchu bardu dani kyapsu chi dagi chunye ki pe sonam ki drula panche sangye druparisho. All right. So as we were talking in our motivation, you know, Rinpoche is so special in this book, and I highly recommend, if you want to read one chapter, at least try to read this chapter. Is the seventh chapter, how worthy Dharma and holy Dharma differ. The importance of understanding what Dharma is. This is so precious, so precious. Because understanding what Dharma is, it's like what actually is going to open the door for us to have whatever we want. It's like that in life as well, right? It's like we want to have something, but we don't know what we want, so how can we have it? For example, I think especially like teenager kids, you know, when they are like 15, 16, 17, or they have to start deciding what they want to do in their lives, which type of career or what they're going to study. So if they don't know, it's very hard for them to decide. What, right? It's like, I don't know what I want, so how I can decide? So that undecisiveness creates a lot of anxiety, and we ended up doing something that not necessarily will bring what we might actually want. So that's why it's so important in the beginning for us to understand, what do we want? The problem with knowing what we want, we need to know what are the options. Because nowadays we think that there is only one option. And this option is, the more we accumulate material things in this life, the more I have what I want, the more I follow my desires, my attachments, the more I fulfill this mind of dissatisfaction with pleasurable things, I'm going to be happy. That's what we think it is. The problem is that it is not like that. So luckily, we can all realize that without Dharma even. We don't need Dharma. We can start seeing in our lives sometimes how chasing these things don't bring about the result that we want, and therefore we feel even more dissatisfied. For me, at least, was like that. I still remember, being in the investment banking and starting to get more financial, resources, and starting to see and getting the access to having all of these things. But I already knew in some ways that this was not going to bring happiness because I never had it, and I was quite happy. So having them was not going to bring that. So then I had to say, okay, so then what brings that happiness? What is that? So I started to look for it. I started to look when I was 12, but only I think after a few years that you really start to really look into it. You need to sometimes go through some situations because you think maybe partying, drinking, and going around and doing this and that. That's what it's gonna be. And then I thought it was traveling. Then I went traveling, and I had that freedom to go wherever I want, to do whatever I want. Oh, nothing there. Then after 6 months, 7 months, I was bored already. So then I thought, oh yes, I'm gonna do something for others because I'm a very good person. So I'm gonna work in charity. And I went to do these things with like kids and children all over the world. And my mind was still angry and I was still unsatisfied. So it was not there as well. So I was a bit like, where is this? Where is that type of happiness? I know that there is some sort of like it must be have some sort of satisfaction in life. Not just a temporary one, but something that would kind of like last. So then I started to look for a spiritual path, and Buddhism brought me the understanding of the possibility of achieving that. And it started to give me, like when you go to supermarkets, they have this little thing in the entrance, like, you want to try this? Do you want to try that? Do you want to, it's just a little taste. You have just a little taste, that's what Buddhism and meditation started to bring to me. That little taste, oh, it is possible. But all of that, I thought it was outside, is actually inside. It's a mental state. So I started to realize that, wow, I can use my own mind to achieve happiness. But not only happiness, as Buddhism was going to say, of this life, because Buddhism talks about future lives. Because if we're going to continue being reborn again and again and again and again, so at least let's have a good life. But then Buddhism said, yes, this is very good, but what is keeping you dissatisfied is what we call your negative tendencies and the seeds you plant. So right now, what doesn't allow you to find that mental happiness are these disturbances that you have in your mind. They are blocking, they are covering. So then I said, wow, if they are doing that, so I want to get rid of them. I want to let them go. And I want to burn those seeds so they don't actually happen again and again and again, not only in this life, but in future lives, that I have to encounter these negativities again. And Buddhism goes even beyond that with the Mahayana, with this greater attitude to say, well, you can even do that, but you can do that in an even deeper way because you can achieve a completely elimination of your suffering and you can develop all your good qualities. You can achieve like all of those, you can develop all of those qualities that you already have in yourself of love, kindness, compassion, generosity, patience in unconditional and unlimited ways. So your life not only becomes free, but becomes full. So then I said, yes, that's what I want to try. That's what I want to try. So how do I do that? So, in Buddhism, everybody's gonna say to you, just practice Dharma. And then you say, okay, how do I practice Dharma? Well, we think that reciting mantras, because then people say, you just meditate. Meditation is Dharma, you know? And then you try to sit down and say, don't think, don't think, don't think. You know, and then you cannot do it because it's impossible to stop thinking like this. And the idea is not also to stop thinking, but then go beyond the thought, the identification with the thought. So then we say, oh, I'm going to recite mantras. I don't have my mala. Then I say, okay, mantras, yes. Oh, mani padme hum, mani padme hum, mani padme hum. Oh, yes, this is done. Or I'm going to think about it. Oh, yes, you know, like listening to teachings from all of these incredible teachers, not like me, but like the incredible teachers. Then, you know, then this is Dharma. Then you're like, oh, yes, now I'm practicing Dharma, listening all of this. And I listen, but, you know, in the Lamrim, we say that there's 3 types of listening. One is like a pot turned upside down. We listen, but nothing goes inside because we are not opening to actually listen to it. Or maybe we say that there is the pot with holes. So we listen, but nothing stays. Everything goes away. So we continue our daily lives and nothing stays. And then we say that the pot has dirt or there's poison inside. So everything that we put in our mind becomes contaminated by this poison. So actually, listening to Dharma also doesn't do the trick. Then we think, oh yes, I'm gonna shave my head. I'm gonna, you know, put funny clothes. I'm gonna, you know, put in these, you know, wear these kind of like, only have 2 types of clothes. I'm gonna give everything away. I'm gonna, you know, live in poverty. That is what Dharma is. And then we become even angry. We become angry at ourselves. We become angry at others. We don't get what we want. We just don't achieve what we want. And then it's not there. There's a very funny story what I just told, but very similar to, it's called the Drone Tompa, which is a very special master, Tibetan master. And he was actually, from the time, he was a close disciple of Atisha. And he used to say, saw this old man walking around, you know, a temple in this monastery, you know. And then the man thought he was practicing Dharma. And then Don Trumpa said, yes, circumambulating the temple is very good, but, you know, wouldn't it be better for you to practice Dharma? And then the man was like, oh, no, I need to do something Dharma, da, da, da. So I'm going to read the scriptures and read the texts and all of that. And he's there sitting and reading. And then Don Trumpa would pass and say, yes, reading scriptures are very good, but wouldn't it be better if you practice Dharma? And then he's like, oh, okay. So then maybe meditation, you know, like I'm going to become a yogi. I'm going to go to the mountain, to the cave, and then I'm going to become, you know, practicing a lot of Dharma. And then Don Trumpa would come and say, meditation's very good, but it wouldn't be better to practice Dharma? So that is where old man became very confused and kept like, but what is, you know? And he's like, Dharma, practicing Dharma. You're always saying that, but what do you mean? And then Ram Tompa said, renounce this life. Renounce what actually the attachment to this life is. Whatever you do will not be the practice of Dharma because you never have passed beyond these attachments, beyond the 8 worldly concerns. Once you have renounced that, then you are not distracted anymore by these 8 worldly dharmas, these attachments to these lives. Then whatever you do becomes holy Dharma. So as you can see, renouncing this life, it's a word that we use a lot here, especially in Buddhism. We say about renunciation. And renunciation doesn't mean running away from home, throwing away your possessions. It doesn't mean, you know, kind of like giving out everything. Not like that. Renunciation, true renunciation, proper renunciation, holy Dharma renunciation, means giving up the causes of suffering, which is the negative minds, especially the mind of attachment. That is what it is. So we need to understand what that means, because if throwing away our things, walking away, putting robes, doing mantra, doing this, it's not Dharma, then what actions are Dharma? Now comes the interesting part. Actions by themselves, or actions in itself, it doesn't determine if it is going to be Dharma or not Dharma. It's not like that. It's not the action that you're doing that is going to declare or determine if you're practicing Dharma or not. We need to be very clear in this distinction, understanding what it is then. Well, the definition of Dharma, we can say that it is everything that fights the delusions, everything that goes against the negative tendencies, and especially against our attachment to this life. So then we know, for example, now that we have been studying, that we've been contemplating and all of that, that anger is a negative mindset. We can understand, of course, that it disturbs our mind, that it makes us feel weird and bad. And, there's like that feeling not only in the body, because it can even like bring us, like diseases like cancer or high blood pressure and many things because of our anger, right? Because it disturbs the mind, and therefore the connection between the body and the mind gets disturbed. But we're not angry all the time. Well, I hope. Some people can be angry most of the time, but not all the time. We all have an angry person in our life. But we're not angry all the time. It's actually the attachment, being attached to the 8 worldly dharmas that are constantly sucking up our energy and not allowing us to practice real Dharma. So as we've been saying, the 8 worldly dharmas and the attachments to this life that we are like focusing here, as the teaching says, is our attachment to pleasures, instant, temporary pleasures, and our aversion or our attachment to not have pain or things that are unpleasant. Then we have the attachment for what we call comfort. We want everything that we're going to make our lives easier. And I can't remember what it was that I was seeing that another day that I was checking, that I said, wow, we are even becoming so lazy to not even kind of like do one thing. I can't remember what it was. I don't remember, but it was something very funny that is like, we are becoming so lazy not to walk from here to there. We are inventing an app or something like that just to do this for us. That's what we have become. So that is attachment to comfort. And then we have the attachment to not having comfort. So we have an attachment to aversion of discomfort. Everything that creates discomfort, we run away, we don't want, we fight, we just become very angry or upset when we are discomfortable. Then what we call the attachment to good reputation, our attachment to the way we present ourselves to the world and how amazing and holy and kind and generous and beautiful and successful and everything that we we create about ourselves. So this one, I feel that I hope that we can recognize that we do that. Then we have the aversion or the attachment to not have that. So we don't want to be seen as a bad person with a bad reputation, or a kind of like, having seen as, oh no, this person is not like this, is like that. Wow, we run away from that, and we really do so many things. It's like desperate. Oof. It's almost like we get panic attacks that people might think about us like in a bad way. No, I need to prove to this person that I am a good person. Wow. So strong. And then the fourth pair is attachment to fame, or to praise, to receive, to hear good things about ourselves. One is more the idea of being seen, or just people having an idea of us, but the other one is receiving, is praising, say, yes, please tell me how amazing I am. I want to hear, yes. Oh yes, you're so holy, you're so smart, you're so like this. Wow. And then we become slaves of this mind, just chasing that. And then we are so afraid and so attached to not hear criticism. Right? We don't want to hear criticism at all. I'm not talking about feedback, because feedback sometimes is very useful and some people are very open for feedback. I love feedback, I love to hear when people say, oh, Carl, in the class today was very bad. And I say, yes, tell me why, so we can improve. That's very good. But criticism is like, oh, you are horrible. You are very bad. You are, oh, you did this wrong because you're a bad person. That type of things that we normally kind of like have in our minds as criticism. Then these are the things that actually, if we observe our minds from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, these are the things that we are chasing all the time. All the time. And anger arises when we don't get what we want. So we don't get these things. So that's why we can become angry. So anger is not the first thing, but actually attachment is the first. Attachment to these things is specifically, right? So whatever we do, wanting the happiness of this life, because all of these things, the 8 worldly dharmas we accomplish, we get in this life. Because if we are dead, we are not going to have, looking for comfort. We're not going to look for a reputation. We're not going to look for that, right? The problem is that the mind continues. The body is not here anymore, but the mind continues. And what we do by engaging into this thought of the 8 worldly dharmas all the time, looking for this in our lives, making this the purpose of our lives, is that when we die, this strong craving, this strong attachment will propel, will bring us, will make us want to continue doing this in next lives. So that is what hooks us into samsara, into this cycle of death and rebirth, and continue bringing back again and again. So it makes us like, no, but I didn't get what I wanted in this life, so I wanted to continue chasing this in next life. So we come another time with a different body, with a different way, with a different gender, with a different mother, father, with a different family, different all of this. But the idea of following the 8 worldly dharmas is exactly the same. So that is what hooks us into this cycle of suffering. And understanding then what is that is motivating us to follow this, which is our attachment, and deciding not to follow this attachment is what we are talking about here. Is that what we are talking that we need to renounce? We need to renounce the attachment of wanting to chase these things just for the pleasures of this life. And when we do that, we are not only having freedom from the 8 worldly dharmas in this life, but we are creating the causes to decrease that craving and that attachments in future lives. You understand? Make sense? Yes? It's very difficult because I cannot know what you guys thinking, but I hope it's making sense. So what it means practicing Dharma, it is this idea that we actually fight, or we go opposite of being attached to this life, or opposite of clinging to the 8 worldly concerns. So whatever action we do with the thought of 8 worldly dharmas, it's not Dharma. Whatever we do that is free from this attachment is Dharma. So that's when we need to understand that the actions by themselves don't create Dharma and non-Dharma. It's not the action, but it is the intention. It is an intention that is going to define if it is Dharma or is no Dharma. So if we have an intention that it is to go against this attachment, that is Dharma. So for example, let's give an example. We have many examples in the stories, you know, and I'm gonna say some of the old examples, but we're gonna bring also examples in this life. But they say that there was this amazing yogi practitioner, and then some benefactors were going to go and visit him. So he started to clean his entire place because he wanted them to see how amazing and how clean and how organized and how everything beautiful he was. So he wanted to impress them, right? So it is this idea of the 8 worldly dharma of a good reputation, of fame, of receiving praise. So then he was doing that, and when they were about to come, he realized that he was doing that because of that motivation. That was his real motivation. So he took his, because we use a lot of incense, and incense creates ashes. So he took all of these ashes and he threw in his altar, and he threw in his entire house, and became a mess. Because he realized that he was following the mind of the 8 worldly dharmas. And he decided to get criticized, get seen as, as not is a bad reputation, better than actually having good reputation, which is not based in Dharma practice. So that's what we can do in everything that we do in our lives. We need to check whatever it is. It doesn't matter, 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 it doesn't matter. Whatever it is that we are doing, we need to check what is the purpose. We don't need to change what we are doing. We just need to have a perception of what we are doing. And then, is not the action outside that needs to change, but is our motivation. So we can transform that motivation that might be because you want to receive praise, that you want to receive reputation, that you want to receive, comfort. And you can transform it and say, okay, I'm going to still do that. For example, I'm going to still go to work. Why I go to work? No, I should give up going to work. That's what Thubten is telling me. I should not work because work is to achieve material goods, is to achieve the comforts of this life, is to achieve fame, right? Is it? Is the only way that you can go to work? Or you can go to work thinking, well, if I have conditions that are going to give me the necessary, basic needs for me to survive and to have, a healthy life, to have food, to have shelter, to have some sort of instant sort of like conditions, good conditions, then I'm going to have more time to do something that might really help me to transform my mind. I know so many people that they actually work sometimes six months a year, and then they do retreat, or they study, or they go and do, pilgrimage, or they do some things, for the rest of the year. And sometimes they do kind of like banking works, or, like all of these boring things that I used to do, that we can be very boring, but actually then the boringness doesn't arise. I have one friend now that we are doing a project together. We are writing a book for children, right? We are writing a book for children with meditations, with many all of these things, and he's doing that. He's actually working on a normal office job, but it's a normal job because it gives him money, and then he works for like 6-7 months, and then the rest and gives him the time to continue writing the book with me, and gives him 5-6 months a year for him to go to Nepal and to help others. You see? So the job in itself is not good or bad. The job in itself is not the real, it doesn't equate with worldly Dharma. It is actually the intention to not only thinking about himself, not only think about the comforts of this life, and having more and more and more and more and accumulate, and, just thinking about that, but he's thinking about others and thinking about his own mind, like developing, an open heart, an understanding of the potential that he has to help others. So that is very nice. That we can see, right? So we can see in this way that we can fulfill what we call our human potential by doing things like that. We can think about not only, having things that will help us in this life, like food, shelter, and all of that. But as Rinpoche says, there's no difference of wanting that from a dog or a cat or an animal. They also want that. If you observe a little bird, that's exactly what they're doing all the time. They're like, taking food to feed themselves, or taking food to feed their children, and then taking little things to build their nest. And then when it's too cold or it's too hot, they go to sleep and then wake up and then they do that again and again. What is the difference between us going then just to work, to pay the bills, to do this, to do that, and then you have more money, then you buy a new car, then, then you buy a new thing, then you buy another thing, and then where is it, our potential as human beings? Is that what we are born to do? Is that enough for our potential as human beings? Check. I'm not saying it's not, but check. Check if following these mindsets really bring happiness. Following the mindsets. Pay attention to what I'm saying. I'm not saying doing these actions. You understand? Very different. So then we can start to see that if we don't understand what is Dharma and what is holy Dharma, what is worldly Dharma, we ended up acting in ways that what we call non-virtuous ways or negative ways. So what is, and what is something that is non-virtue, and what is something that is virtue? We use quite a lot this word actually in Buddhism, or positive and negative in relation to our lives. So what is this? What makes something being virtue and being non-virtue? Anyone wants to say something? What is something virtue? What is something non-virtue?
Well, I would say motivation is defining the virtue from non-virtue.
The motive.
Why you're laughing now? I'm confused.
No, 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 no. It's very clear because it is exactly this. It's the motivation, isn't it? It's the motivation because we cannot tell from external appearances, you know, who is doing something actually good or bad. We can actually check and see someone, you know, giving food to someone on the street. And we can say, oh, this person is so nice, so generous, so kind. And the person is just doing that with that intention of, please look at me, look at how amazing I am, right? And then, of course, that there is a direct benefit for the person who is receiving the food. But for you, that is what virtues and non-virtues means. Now, virtues and non-virtues is not related into the benefit, outside benefit that it might bring, the worldly benefit, but is actually in relation to the inner benefit. And the inner benefit will depend on the intention. So that means that it will depend on what you can actually achieve with that. So let's say this example, Rinpoche gives actually a very similar example about giving food to someone. So we have 4 motivations by doing that, to do that. We can do that. The first person can do that thinking, may I give this food to this person? And I do that with the intention to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. So I'm offering this food with the intention that I can practice generosity so my mind can really understand cause and effect, can really understand, you know, bodhicitta, emptiness. So I can achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. That's first motivation, enlightenment. Second motivation, I'm doing this so I can be free from suffering. So I can completely decrease my deluded mind, my negative tendencies, my attachment. So I'm giving to not engage into my attachment. So that is freedom, nirvana, liberation from samsara, which is not enlightenment. Then we have the third motivation, which is I'm doing this so I can create the habit on my mind that in future lives, I may be receiving also food and generosity from others. So that is the third motivation. And then there's the fourth motivation, which is our motivation normally, which is I'm giving this so people can see how amazing and kind and generous I am. Or we think out of pity, oh, poor person, they don't have it. Oh, yes, no, oh, poor person. But I am the savior and I'm here to give you what you need. Right? Which is totally 8 worldly concerns, totally attachment to this life, totally in relation to this life. So the 3 first ones, they are motivations that are according to the Dharma, because they can bring you something positive that will eventually lead you to the first motivation, enlightenment. But this fourth one, the one that we normally are doing, it's actually a non-dharma. So it's not holy dharma, it's worldly dharma. So in this way, we can see that. We can see that the motivation, it will decide if some action is either dharma or not dharma. Because that means, in a way, that it's not about what we do. We can do something like what we conventionally call generosity. And that's fine. There is a generosity being done over there, which is to give food, but it's not dharma generosity. Do you understand? Dharma generosity means that it doesn't create the conditions for you to achieve either happiness in future lives, either liberation, or either enlightenment. So we can use whatever we do, whatever we perform, whatever activity we perform in our lives with a different motivation. And these will create the difference between being Dharma or not Dharma. So that's what Rinpoche used to say to us every single time of his life. If you understand the motivation, and if you create, and if you nourish, and if you really put into practice this motivation of wanting to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, then everything that you do can become that. So we need to understand that. We need to understand that it's not in the how they say, in the external activity. You know, what it goes different than what is Dharma and what is holy Dharma is the understanding of the motivation. Is either a motivation with attachment, with anger, with negativities, or it's a motivation without them. So in this way, we can understand as well, which is a very common error, as I was saying, that renouncing the eight worldly dharmas doesn't mean that we need to renounce our job, our comfort, our eating a good pizza, you know, or whatever you like to eat. Many people make fun of me, you know, especially my friends in the beginning when I became a monk. I used to have like iPhone, or I used to go pizza, or, you know, ice cream, and they say, oh, that monks don't do this. Oh, you know, monks shouldn't be doing this. And I used to say, well, both of us are gonna eat the pizza. Then we see which one can be holy Dharma, which one's gonna be a worldly Dharma. Eating the pizza, same action. What is going to define is my intention. It's my motivation. It's what I actually see with my own mind, my attitude towards that action. I can say, okay, if I'm having this instant pleasure, if I am understanding that this is just a small instant pleasure, I don't need that. I don't need this to achieve what I want, which is enlightenment. But if I am doing that, may I then use this food to nourish my body so I can create the necessary conditions to continue practicing enlightenment. Do you understand? So everything that we do in our lives can become Dharma. We don't need to change, but we need to bring awareness. And because awareness and motivation are two things that we don't train and we don't actually put into practice in our daily lives, that's why we need to do certain activities that will help us bring this awareness and cultivate this motivation. So that's what meditation is about. It's familiarizing ourselves with this understanding so we can create a habitual mind to think and in this way, to motivate ourselves in this way. And like everything in life, in the beginning it takes time, but with time it becomes easy. So it becomes automatic. So whatever we do, it clearly comes from this. We don't even need to think about it. You know, Rinpoche was like this. Lama Zopa Rinpoche was incredible because you could feel that everything he was doing 24 hours a day was to benefit others. And not because he was like doing prayers or doing this and that. Rinpoche used to really like enjoying good food or, you know, going for a walk. Sometimes he used to say, you know, him and one of my other teachers, Kandrila, they loved going to shopping mall. And I was always thinking, oh my God, you know, like, oh, this is so worldly. You know, many people say, oh, this is samsara, you know, here, the shopping mall is samsara, you know, it's like, and Rinpoche was totally in a different way, in a different place. He was actually seeing everybody and thinking about benefiting others. And he was like blowing mantra into the things so that anyone that goes and touches that thing can connect with Dharma in this life, future lives, whenever. You know, that's why we have some of us have these kind of like these blessed chords, you know, these blessed strings. What they are, they're just that. They're just strings. It's the same thing. It doesn't mean the strings are, they are not holy by themselves. What it is because of the intention that was here. You know, the teachers, normally we receive them when we go to initiations with teachers because they want to bless those strings to be a reminder for our commitments to achieve enlightenment very quickly, to benefit others. So when we put that, this is touching our body and that this is a reminder for us. So just through the power of intention, we can transform an ordinary string into a holy, blessed string. Do you understand? Makes sense? Yes? So two people can be doing the exactly same thing. And for one person, it can be a virtue, positive, holy Dharma action. And to the other person, can be a negative, can be a non-virtue, can be a worldly Dharma. So enjoying sense pleasures, having money or not having money, being a monk or not, or being a lay person, it doesn't matter. What we need to do is that we need to work with our minds, what we actually need in order to remind ourselves of our motivation again and again and again. So that is one of the main reasons in my own decisions when I became a monk. Because wearing these robes every single day, having this aspect, but especially holding the vows in my mind as a reminder for me of my choice of wanting to dedicate my body, speech, and mind to achieve enlightenment very quickly. So this is what I think it helps me. But it doesn't need to be for everybody. It's not for everybody, and it doesn't have to be for everybody. And that creates the beauty of Dharma, because practicing Dharma is everywhere. Dharma is not an external thing. It's not something that is hold it or kept secret or kept holy in the hands of the monks and nuns and priests and things. No. You don't need to go to Nepal. You don't need to go to a monastery. It's not there that you're going to find Dharma. If this might help you to remind yourself of your motivation, then do it. But don't think that this is going to be there. Like, for example, pilgrimage. Now we are organizing a pilgrimage for next year to Nepal and to India, to go to Kathmandu, to go to Kopan, to go to Laudo, where Lama Zopa was born, then go to Bodh Gaya, go to see His Holiness. So we're doing all of these. Can be Dharma or can be worldly Dharma. It can be just like, look, I went to this place, how spiritual I am, how amazing I am, how, you know? Or it can be, wow, I'm going to use these places to get inspired by the purity of the mind and the intention of these beings. So I can remind myself to purify my mind, to let it go of my attachment, let it go of the 8 worldly dharmas, so I can benefit others. So whatever method we use, that's what we need to do. We need to stop continuing creating negativities, you know, and perfect methods, whatever they might be, to cultivate this pure motivation. This is very important. Because otherwise, we cling to certain activities as being Dharma, and we cling to certain activities as not being Dharma. And then we don't understand that actually a non-virtuous action or a negative action is anything that results in attachment to this life, which will result in suffering. Why and how? Because it will not only not create the happiness of this life, but it's not going to create the happiness of future life. It's not going to create our liberation from samsara. It's not going to create our enlightenment. And not only this, is going to create this feeling of dissatisfaction, not only in this life, but it will make us continue looking for it in future lives and never finding it. Does he understand what I mean, what I just said? Yes? That is very, very important. Because even the 8 worldly dharmas, you know, reputation, comfort, material fame and praise, we can do that with worldly dharma, with a holy dharma, with a mind thinking, oh, if I have reputation, good reputation, I can benefit others. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to engage into negative actions. Because I don't engage with negative actions, by result, without me directly wanting, I'm going to have a good reputation. Because people are not going to see me fighting, screaming, getting angry, getting this, getting that, you know? So people are going to say, wow, that person is very nice. So that understanding is the most important. Understanding the difference between holy dharma and worldly dharma. Because then we can demystify this idea that samsara, oh yes, you know, drinking, smoking, partying, going to fancy restaurants, or going to this, that, this is bad. This is, oh yeah, this is samsara. Oh yeah, very bad. And then when I sit down and meditate, and when I do mantras, when I go to the temple, when I listening to blah, blah, blah talk, when I do then I'm practicing Dharma. But it's still same. Just thinking about this life, just thinking about praise, just thinking about good reputation, just thinking about comfort, just thinking about small pleasures, temporary pleasures. And that is when understanding the 2 types of happiness that we can get is so important. Because if we understand that is just a temporary, instant pleasure, it is what we are actually believing that happiness is. And we're chasing that all the time. And this is constantly finishing because it's temporary. The word itself already says it finishes. So that means I want more, and then I want more, and then I want more, and then I want more. If we chase that as our goal in life, then we forget, or we don't create the conditions to develop the other type of happiness, which is a mental happiness. A happiness that comes from a peace of mind, from a mind that is non-lacking. There's nothing missing. And I'm not only talking about contentment, I'm talking about a mind that doesn't need anything. A mind that is not only free from that kind of like craving of the temporary happiness, but is full of joy, love, compassion, kindness. And that mind we all have experienced in our lives. We all have experienced tastes, snapshots of that. You know, just small little glimpses every time we are in these, either through meditation or either when we are kind of like really wanting to help someone because we care about someone. So that is, you know, when we open our hearts, when we really think about others, when we are very spacious. You understand? Have you know what I'm talking about? Have you connected with that kind of like warm-hearted attitude that we all have? You know that feeling, or maybe you know by watching a beautiful sunset or a beautiful sunrise, or looking at the skies and seeing how small we are, but how incredible we can be, or being in nature, or being with people that like, wow, it is not about the moment, that is a little bit like timeless. So that those are just a little bit of what it can be. It's not what it is, but it's just like it can be 10 times, 100,000, zillion, billion times better. And we can live in that state. We can become that state all the time. I don't know, but when I heard that, I said, I want this. It doesn't matter how much pain is going to be to have to transform my mind, to take out that, I want this. So we all can do that. We all can do this in different areas, and you know, so that is what we can do. But we need to think that we can only benefit others when we achieve these more advanced states. It's not about that. It's not about how we kind of like can think about it, you know? Because right now, even though we might be doing things because we want people to like us or people to see us and all of that, there is still a benefit. There is still a direct benefit, right? It's either that or doing non-virtues. It's either that or doing, you know, negative actions, hurting people, killing others, like, you know, thinking more about ourselves. So that is no problem. That is not a problem. We should actually start from where we are. One of my teachers told me that a long time ago, and I always remember that. Start from where you are. You can do it from where you are. You can do as long as you can, and you can do small things, but it doesn't matter. There's this beautiful um, sutra where the Buddha says that there is this very very special person that is becoming going to become a Dharma king. Is like he's gonna not only become a king, but he's going to become a Dharma king. Means that based on Dharma, he's going to rule his kingdom. And people and the bodhisattvas and the monks around the Buddha asked how he created the causes for that, and he said, well, when I was a Buddha in my, like the first Buddha came, or when the previous Buddha came, he didn't have anything, but he took some sand and he offered that. But he visualized that it, he said, this is the best I can offer, and I visualize and I have the intention as this is gold. This idea of like this is gold, you know? that it doesn't matter that he was offering just, sand, but his intention to offer the best that he could offer. So can you imagine us that have conditions, we being able to transform our minds and wanting to offer the best that we can, and still offer very valuable things like food, offering shelter, offering this. Wow, we're gonna transform our mind like this. Very, very strong. So let me check what else I need to say. It's almost done. Do you have any questions so far? No?
I do.
Yes, please.
So, is there any way we can make sure that we're in the right place with the motivation because the mind is getting so distracted?
So there's not an outside way to check, right? It has to be an internal way, an inner way. And to do that, to check our motivation, if it is as pure as possible, I always say, try to find the 8 worldly dharmas. Check with the 8 worldly dharmas. You check, am I doing this because of fame, because of reputation, because of praise, because of comfort, because of, of pleasure? Just check. They are like the thermometer. They are like what is going to tell us. And for that, we need a lot of honesty, right? Because normally our selfish 8 worldly dharma mind, it's always doing that and it's trying to escape. It wants to continue doing it. So we think that is like, no, 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 I know that I'm doing this because to benefit others. So we go in layers. And then you think, yeah, no, no, I'm doing this because I want to benefit others. And then you do something and someone says, oh, no, wow, you did it amazing. Wow, so nice. And you feel that, that kind of like, wow, I'm so important. I'm so nice. I'm so this. So then you already know that the motivation was not correct. So then you try again next time, So then you see, wait a minute, why am I doing this? Oh yeah, I'm doing this because of that. Oh yes, I can see that I'm doing this because I want to receive praise. So then I'm gonna do something that it might be contrary for that. So I don't receive praise. Well, I'm not gonna do it, right? But doing or not doing, it doesn't matter. Someone asked me a few weeks ago, I think, I can't remember what it was the example, but the person kind of like asked, but well, should I do that or should I not do that? And I say, it depends on the motivation. And it's not one time answer, because maybe on that day, doing that will help you to actually think about others. And the next day doing that will help you actually to inflate your ego and your self-cherishing. So it's these that we need to kind of like be all the time checking with ourselves. Always checking. 8 worldly dharmas, not 8 worldly dharmas. Is this self-cherishing, not self-cherishing? Is this because I want to receive that or not? That's what it is. We go kind of like, say, oh, okay. Oh, yeah, oh, no, I can see the benefit of this. Or you can ask the other question, which is, how is this bringing me close to enlightenment? Right? How is this opening my heart? How is this making me create less negativity? And how is this making me benefit or increase in an unlimited and unconditional way my qualities. Make sense?
Totally. Thank you. Really makes sense.
Now that is a good question. Very good question.
Thank you, Venerable.
So in this way, what we can just to summarize is that it doesn't matter the action. Well, one of the things that I think is good also to do is that normally we see, if we see that normal people are saying, oh, this is good, oh yes, this is very good, this is very good, this is very good, this is very good, you normally should doubt if that is worldly dharma, that this is holy dharma. Because ordinary mindsets, our ordinary mindset is just wanting the 8 worldly concerns. So it's just wanting to accumulate more, to have more wealth, to have more fame, to have more this, to have more that. If people will say to you, oh no, you should do that because you're gonna receive more money, oh, because it's gonna, like, you're gonna receive this position and you're gonna do that and this is gonna be very good. And then you say, okay, that is the worldly benefit. What is the holy benefit of it? How this is gonna help me to decrease my attachment to these things, right? So then you can check. And this is going to increase and enhance our understanding that it is not the action, but it's the motivation. And we need to be very careful, but not judging others as well, because we cannot say that just because, Venerable Calden is just there sitting and wearing robes and doing this and that he's very holy Dharma. No. Understanding this is one of the most important understanding when we are talking about Guru devotion, when we are talking about investigating our teacher. But the same for others. We don't think that because people are doing something that looks like wrong, we don't know their minds. Maybe they are bodhisattvas, maybe they are Buddhas, and they are doing something that conventionally looks wrong, but actually can be good. So you don't need to change your job. You don't need to like change your clothes. You don't need to change your house. You don't need to change your car. You don't need to do any of this. What we need to change is our attitude, our motivation, our intention. That is the most important, I think, like what really needs to be clear. So I hope it was clear. I hope that at least helped to be clear a little bit more. We need to hear and read. As I say, this book I try to read at least once a year to remind myself of that, to not make me go into this idea that whatever it is, it's holy Dharma. Doing mantras, doing retreat, and doing this, oh yes, oh, I'm so holy, oh yeah, no Dharma, right? So we try to do that again and again and again and again and again. So this was just another reminder. So as I say, please read the book, much better than this blah, 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 because it's the words of Rinpoche. It's purely intention there to benefit others. So with that in mind, we can dedicate all of these incredible positive seeds that we created here. Well, if they were positive or not, it depends on our motivation. So each of you need to check if you planted positive seeds or not. If you wanted just to kind of like be telling your friends tomorrow at work, oh, I have these amazing Dharma teachings yesterday. Look how holy I am. Or because you really want to transform your mind, because you want to help others, because you want to liberate yourself from the delusions, from the negative tendencies, and because you want to achieve enlightenment, because you want to have omniscience, you want to have power, you want to have unlimited love, compassion, kindness, and you want to be completely free from all of the suffering and the causes of suffering. And with this combination of being free from the sufferings and the completion of your good qualities, you become a Buddha. And from there, you actually powerfully, all the actions that you do without even thinking automatically are holy Dharma. Okay? So that's what we want to achieve. If we want, you can choose something else. That's what I would like to achieve. So I dedicate that every actions that we have done here for that, we can dedicate for that. But then that enlightenment of not only ourselves, but all sentient beings, because if we achieve enlightenment, then we have the conditions to help all sentient beings to get enlightened. We need to get there first, though. And for that to happen, we need to then decrease our attachments to this life. So we dedicate it so as to have all of the conditions, inner, outer conditions, to be able to practice the Dharma, practice holy Dharma. So especially for places like Thubten, Kunga, Ling to continue to exist and having all the necessary conditions. And of course, we will not even hear the word Dharma or the worldly Dharma or eight worldly Dharmas or attachment or aversion and enlightenment and all of that if it was not for the kindness of our teachers who before us have walked this path going through a lot of hardships, just like we are doing here, you know, by listening to this blah, blah, blah talk and a lot of hardships. So they also did that. And they are now having this incredible potential and conditions to help us and all sentient beings to achieve this enlightenment. So special. So we dedicate for their long and healthy lives, especially His Holiness the Dalai Lama. By the way, on August 22nd in New York, we don't know yet where, he's going to have a long life puja for the Dalai Lama that the Tibetan Association, the Tibetan community, the Mongolians and Tibetan communities are offering to His Holiness. So I encourage all of you to participate. And that's why on the 22nd is a Thursday. We're not going to have teachings because I hope that I can create the merits, the conditions to go there. I'm very sorry. So, and we dedicate, of course, for the swift return of our teacher, especially Lama Zopa Rinpoche, to come back and continue his incredible kindness for us and all sentient beings. And by practicing like that, not only we achieve enlightenment, but in this life, these we can contribute immediately for a more kind, generous, peaceful, kind, and full of compassion and love world. Because if we are walking towards enlightenment, we are walking towards developing all of these things, and therefore we contribute for that to happen right now. So isn't that great? We get the conditions to achieve enlightenment, and we get here now these results of a more peaceful and kind world. So we're going to do these dedication prayers to remind ourselves, to help ourselves, to make strong imprints on our minds for that. I think it's 245 names, 235. Yes. Thank you, Nana. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen rise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Just as the brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra too realize things as they are, I too dedicate all these merits in the best way that I may follow their perfect example. I dedicate all these roots of virtue with the dedications praises the best by the victorious one, thus gone of the 3 times, so I might perform good works. I dedicate whatever virtues I have ever collected for the benefits of the teachings and of all sentient beings, and in particular for the essential teachings of perfect pure Lozandrapa to shine forever. So now we go to 246. Shantideva's beautiful dedication. May all beings everywhere plagued by sufferings of body and mind obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be may no one be afraid of the little with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing. May the thirsty find water. May the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be free. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain, to dispel the miseries of the world. Now we go to page 244 for the short, long life for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good, all-powerful Chenrezig Tenzin Gyatso. Please remain until samsara ends. And now we can do the swift return prayer for Lama Zopa Rinpoche. It's not appearing, it's not showing Nana. Maybe you need to share again. Otherwise, I have it here. Yep. Thank you. Fearless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losang, father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of the infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings. Through the explanation and practice, you are the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway to reach all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss! Nevertheless, to the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the oceans of the three jewels and the great ways of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of reincarnations swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. So thank you very, 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 very much. So next week, we're going to continue. Next chapter, chapter 9. So if you want to read it. And I also going to do it online only because I'll visit some friends close to Orlando, which I've been postponing, and I need to go to see them. So then we're gonna do it online again. Okay, so have a wonderful week. I hope that this can help you, and try to remember throughout your day what we talked here today. Good night. Good night. Thank you, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Venerable. It was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.